I don't think Backrooms is a nihilistic film. I didn't come away from the film feeling despair. Rather, I felt peaceful and almost hopeful for the future. I know that that's a weird thing to say about a horror film, but let me cook. The reason why Backrooms is so unsettling is because it mirrors a post pandemic psychological reality. The pandemic functioned as this liminal event, and I feel like we're still living in that liminal space collectively. Entire identities collapsed, careers vanished, and institutions just lost their credibility. And for so many of us, it just feels like we're in this generational waiting room, waiting for things to turn back to normal, but normalcy never fully arrives. The back room sort of functions as this metaphor for consciousness and how it desperately clings to identities in order to seek certainty. And sometimes we often seek certainty in identities that are built on trauma, identities that no longer serve us. But what if healing is discovering that the narrative that you've told yourself about your trauma is not identical to the traumatic event itself? Like our minds, the back room recreates familiar environments, but not perfectly. Hallways feel slightly wrong. The yellow wallpaper feels like everything is decaying. The rooms feel remembered but not quite lived in. We think that memory is like this recording device, but psychologically, it is reconstructive. Memory is an act of creation. The purpose of a liminal space is not to transport you backwards to what was, the old ways of living. Rather, it's just a threshold that you cross. It's not something that you inhabit forever. And you only have two options. It's either you cross it or you remain trapped inside of it. And the people who remain stuck are those who are obsessed with controlling and managing uncertainty by attaching to outdated, partial versions of themselves. Both Clark and Mary mirror each other in that they're both obsessed with control. Clark is obsessed with maintaining the narrative that he is the victim in his own life. He blames everybody else for his unrealized dreams of being an architect. He blames his wife for the his alcoholism and his failed marriage. But underneath that victim narrative is the tyrant. And the tyrant is what manifests into this monster captain version of himself. The backrooms just sort of acts as this contradictory mechanism. It shows you exactly what you are. Clark's identity is dependent on domination, while Mary's identity depends on rescue. One seems monstrous and the other seems virtuous, but at the end of the day, both are strategies for avoiding uncertainty. That's why the scene where she tries to save him while also being tied to the chair is very important, because physically she is held captive, but psychologically she's confronting her compulsion to rescue. If Clark chose to change, she gets to be the rescuer. But if Clark decides that he doesn't want to change, she must confront herself. And this means that she must change her identity, or at least let go of the old identity of being the rescuer. I think this is why narcissists are a very important part of our psychological development, because when we are all confronted with this immovable force that is in our path, we have no choice but to change directions. And that is petrifying, especially when you are attached or invested in their pathology. But that's the point of the liminal space. And this is why I think it's significant that Clark remains there, because that's who he is. The narratives that he has fed himself for years and years has finally consumed him, much like how the unconscious mind consumes the ego. And I think it's symbolically significant that when Mary smashes the handprint on the monster's face, it's symbolic in that it's not just childhood memory, it's evidence of her identity. And she is breaking her dependence upon that past, upon the old identity of being her mother's daughter, of being the rescuer. And now she's ultimately choosing and deciding to be the author of her present self. And that's why I found Mary's smile to be peaceful, because she's realized the inherited scripts that she's been telling herself. She's not her mother's daughter. She's not her profession. She's not the story that she told herself. But Whatever that's left after all of that is removed is impossible to define. It's almost like telling someone who hasn't seen a dog to draw a dog. Smile to me doesn't say I've figured out the universal truth that could solve the backrooms. I think that smile is acceptance. It's surrender to the process of I I don't know who I am without the trauma, but I know who I'm not. So yes, I didn't get despair. I didn't get nihilism. I got existential freedom.